everyone, Leo with Dreaming Tree, and welcome to the assembly video for our greenhouse. I've got all of my pieces cut out in front of me here, as should you. And I guess you could technically call this a conservatory if you want. And I just realized that, well, it's quite possible that you could maybe even during the spooky season turn this into a mausoleum. So a lot of possibilities here. But anyway, what we're going to do, I need to point out a few things real quick before we jump in and do anything. These pieces here that look like this, okay, these are going to be overlays. So we're going to use those later. And so are these. Now I want to kind of show the difference because you have pieces that have these little cutouts here, and then there's pieces that kind of look like, well, this is actually going to go over this, but these are also going to be overlays even though they have tabs, okay? So the ones that are structural look like this, and there's a total of 4 of these. The little windows on 2 sides are a little bit wider, and then we have 4 of these funky looking things. And the vellum is going to go, for the roof, it's going to go on these pieces here. So just follow along here with me as I get all of these put into place, and it should be pretty straightforward. Now this one is, it's a labor of love, everyone, you know that. We're going to begin by putting these little pieces of vellum in place here first, and just going to do a series of dots. Now remember, no one's really going to see the inside of this, so you don't need to be perfect. And anytime, make sure you get the right piece. Anytime you're putting vellum on the inside or putting vellum anywhere and we're gluing it down, obviously there's going to be areas where you see the little glue adhering to the actual vellum. We just want to make sure that we don't get any of that glue poking through or being in this part where it's actually visible. Okay, so just do your best. And we're just going to get all the vellum out of the way and chit-chat a little bit, get our feet wet. This one is not difficult at all. The roof is very unique, I'll call it that. And that, well, it's unique. It's something that we've never really done before. It's really going to make this thing pop and look quite impressive when we're done with it. Okay, let's get these 2 here. And I'm not overly concerned about getting glue on the little cross sections of the inside of the window. Doesn't really matter. This will all stay in place just fine with the glue that we're putting around the perimeter. Just make sure you line that up so that it is in fact on top of the actual cutout, so that when we put our little tea light in there, it'll diffuse that light and look nice and magical for us. Now, one thing I do want to mention, that when we were designing this, these projects, these are, the larger a project, the more paper. We did our best to minimize how much paper we used on this project. I realize that's one thing that you guys often bring up. Okay, so that's that. Now, while we have this here, I'm going to take a look and we're going to find the various pieces. Now, obviously, these little triangles here are going to go on, where are they going to go? Oh, yeah, okay. They have their spot, and I'll show you where they all go, but we want to find these pieces first. Okay, so find these trapezoid-shaped pieces first. There's going to be some thinner ones, there's going to be some thicker ones. Obviously, for this, we want some thicker ones. Okay, and just going to go around the horn here and apply just little dots. You don't need a lot. For this one here, these little cross sections, they're thick enough to where I feel comfortable putting a little bit of glue on there. Okay, just kind of anchor it with your finger on one end. Make sure that it's actually, keep it within the boundaries of the scored areas as well. We don't want the vellum obstructing our ability to assemble the structure once it's all there. I mean, if you do get it across one of the score marks, it's not the end of the world. It'll just have a little more resistance when it comes to trying to fold at that tab. I'm kind of excited that we're getting more into some springy things. We just released some Easter stuff, and this is kind of a garden-y theme. I actually thought this would be great as a centerpiece, well, in my dining room, actually. But, of course, thinking about other uses, can definitely see this being a centerpiece at a wedding. Typically, you'll see weddings take place in little gardens, maybe even in a garden that has a conservatory. What else? You know, showers, definitely weddings, and of course, decor, home decor. I can't wait to, what I'm going to do actually, I was already thinking about this, is I'm going to check out like Home Goods. I don't know if you guys have a Home Goods near you. Maybe find a cool tray to put this on and fill it with some nice moss and some other decorative floral things, just to kind of create a scene that is very like garden-like. It's going to be a pretty little decor piece. Perfect, like I said, for a dining room or whatever you may want to, wherever you may want to use it. Okay, so we're going to go over to this one now. And we should have 4 left, and we do. Now this one's a little bit thinner. That's why we're using the thinner pieces. And the same thing, just little dots. Go around the horn. Okay. And obviously just make sure that you're doing it at the correct angle. And try to get it as centered as possible. Whoops. There we go. And it is now February, late February. We had, I guess, what's called Fool's Spring, I think. That was last week. It's coming back again this week as far as the temperature. You're thinking to yourself, yeah, well, this is it. Winter's finally over. And then, of course, last night we get snow. Go figure. And then this week it's supposed to be back up in the 60s. And welcome to, well, I don't want to say I would live in Chicago because I don't. But basically, Chicago weather, it can really play with your brain, with your mind. Okay, there we go. And I've got one more over here. I think the roof is going to be, and I hate using the word challenging, because there's really nothing we can't make out of paper. I mean, we've already made this, and it's not that bad. But yeah, it's probably the most challenging part of this, because the actual base of it is just a rectangle, so there's not much to it. Okay, all right, so we have that, and then what we can start doing here is taking, and you know what, let's form these 4 pieces so that they're ready to go into these pieces here. And you'll see, it's really not that bad. All right, so these are kind of funky shaped, so just make sure. All right, so again, okay, so let's go ahead and put the vellum on these pieces first. Now, it'd be a good idea just to go through these and kind of find the ones that are, well, the vellum for the front of these is this. Okay, it's going to be these white ones. These are not going to be, so you know what, let's get these out of the way first. Let's do these first. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and just apply dots. And throw a few dots here on these little details. You don't have to go crazy, just add them where you can, where you think it won't cause any of that glue to bleed into the actual cutaway area. There we go. Just like that. And of course for these windows here, it's going to be the smaller triangle. So let's get that in place. Beautiful little design. And I apologize again, this is probably like the third time this year already where I've been a little hoarse. I'm a little hoarse, yeehaw. No, 2 kids in 2 different schools and a toddler, a stay-at-home mom that tries to keep them all occupied, so they're all over the place. I think we brought home probably like 14 different strains of bacteria and viruses the last time they went to one of those jump places. And, you know, for those of you that have had kids, you know that they don't sleep very well when they're congested. So Dad to the rescue with the little tube that you place in their nostril, and then you use your own lung power to clear the obstructions in their nasal passages. And by default, I end up essentially ingesting said concoction of viruses and bacteria. So here I am. Okay. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that little skit. Okay, so now let's take a look at these, and it's obvious that there's a few of these that are a little bit smaller. It's kind of hard to tell, but just lay them in these spaces here and just make sure that they work. Like this one looks bigger, and it's going to go there. This one looks bigger too. That is going to go there. This is a small guy, so he's going to go there, and then these 2 go over here. Okay, you get the idea. And let's get these little pieces in place. I actually thought this would be more difficult to assemble, actually, but I was pleasantly surprised at how intelligently it was engineered. Okay, there we go. All right. Let's get our glue going here. And I'm doing lines now. Whatever feels good, just go for it. Well, in crafting, don't do that in life. It'll get you in trouble. Oh, that is not right. Almost messed that one up. There we go. Okay. Let's try to keep me in the frame here. All right, so 1 down, a couple more to go. So how's life treating you guys? You guys doing all right out there? I'm looking forward to getting back in the garden. Learned a lot of things last year about what I can and can't handle as far as potential yields of various vegetables. I am definitely going to minimize, well, not minimize, just cut down on the number of tomato plants that I plant every year. I'm like, I'm going to have all these tomatoes and I'm going to can them and yada yada, and you know what? I just don't have time. I love a good fresh tomato though, so just need enough, you know, for your guacs and your sandwiches and your burgers and hot dogs and, you know, whatever's on the menu. But as far as preserving, boy, I tried it and I was like, why am I spending all the... I'm just not good at it. I think if I was more experienced, you know, you could probably do bigger batches. And oh boy, I have a good friend of mine sends me pictures every year after he finishes all his canning, and I'm just like, wow. But I'm too busy in here to work on that skill right now. but maybe one of these days. I do enjoy dehydrating and making powders or crushed pepper. I love spicy foods. I'll put spicy. I'll put hot sauce on a jalapeno. That's how much I enjoy spicy things. But there's something, I don't know what it is, something primal, or just something deeply rooted in me, where I really love growing, eating, and making stuff with peppers. I think peppers are part of, no, I don't think they are. I was going to say, they're somehow related to pumpkins, I would say. And that's one thing I think I'm going to do this year, is grow some more pumpkins. I didn't grow them last year, but maybe I will this year. I'm a pretty good pumpkin grower. I don't know why I didn't do it. The kids always seem to love the pumpkin patch. Okay, our vellum's in place, guys. That wasn't so bad. All right, so now we can go back to, well, I almost started doing this earlier, but I didn't. We're gonna take these 4 that look like this, and we're gonna build them and join them together right here at that tab. Each of these has a single tab. There's also a tab down here, but this is a structural. Well, this is actually gonna be for the lip, for the roof. We don't need to mess with that just yet, but go ahead and put a little bit of glue on that little tab right there, and bring that over, line it up, and press and hold that down. We're just gonna form these 4, because these are gonna go into these little guys here. See these little tabs here? We're gonna use that to join these sections together to build our roof. Yeah, I mean, it looks complicated, but it's actually quite simple. But that's why when people see this all lit up, they're gonna be like, wow, that's pretty awesome. Okay, let's dab that glue out to the very edge of the tab, tuck that behind, and press and hold in place. There we go. And the cool thing about this thing too is you're not really gonna have to spend too much time picking out papers and patterns, and I mean, you could, but the idea is just to kind of keep it simple and classy. Very traditional looking, but you know, for my Halloween freaks out there, if you want to jazz this up and make this kind of like a mausoleum, that's going to be a whole different story. I might just have to do that this year. We'll see. Okay. So far, so good. One more of these, and then we can start building. Once you get through the roof, the rest of it is a cakewalk. Just some paper piecing, nothing crazy. All right. Get that lined up. And press and hold. There we go. Okay. Looks good. All right, cool. So those are ready to go. Now let's pull these out. Now one of these is already kind of tethered. We can start there. Just gonna make sure my score lines are... Okay, so this side here, you'll notice that one side is a little bit longer than the other, okay? We'll call this the front, and we'll call this the side, okay? And the front takes this larger piece, where the sides take the smaller one. Okay, that teal is really pretty. So these tabs, actually, we want them folding out. Okay. And what we're gonna do is just, I had 2 of them. I'm gonna glue that like that. Okay. Just like that. So we wanna actually put glue on, if you're using textured paper, which I assume you are, you're gonna put glue on the actual texture side, and then take this piece, pop it right on there. Make sure it's flush at the top. If you're a little bit off, don't fret too much, because we're actually going to, and you can actually, once you have that on there, just go like this. It doesn't need to be at that angle yet. You can just push down, but then when it goes back, just make sure that it is at that angle. on this other side, we won't have that luxury. We'll have to make sure that we have it in the right position. Okay, give that a few seconds to set, just like that. I totally lost my train of thought. Okay, all right, let's go over to this one now. And we do the same thing. I'm gonna put glue on this tab. Now, again, if you get a little crazy with the glue here, I think that's what I was gonna say. We have panels that are gonna go over this, so if you get a little bit of glue that shoots out, not the end of the world. Okay, I'm just using my fingers in the back there just to kind of push that tab up against this section, just going down very gently, very slowly, making sure that I'm making contact throughout my way down so that that tab is making good contact. Make sure it's nice and flush up against the surface as well. Otherwise it's going to fall apart. You need a nice sturdy roof, obviously. There we go. Yeah, look at that. Okay. Okay. So next what we're going to do is we're actually going to take and going to connect this section here and just start kind of working our way around the horn. Let's take and spread that glue out nice and thin. And you can actually do this flat, it might be easier. Don't forget that you want the shorter side here, and get that lined up as accurately as you can, like so. Press that down. There we go. Just want to be patient. Okay, and we can do that later. What we want to do, I'm going to start at the bottom here and just get this angle nice and lined up like so. Okay, so go ahead and put glue on this little tab. And you'll notice that there's a little bit of the these little horizontal pieces for the window that sort of stick out on that tab. And it's just to help you figure out where it all needs to go, and also add a little extra support. Okay, just make sure you get that nice and aligned. Just like that. It's a little wobbly right now, but we have a little skeleton piece that's going to keep this thing nice and straight for us, ultimately. Okay, just right up here, just make sure that you get that. Be patient, let that really set before we move on. There we go. Okay, we have this little tab in here that we can now glue down. Just throw a little bit of glue on that. I'm just going to spread it around with my nozzle and just take a look, make sure it's nice and lined up, and press and hold. Give that a few seconds. And there we go. Okay, slowly but surely we're getting there. All right, now we're going to grab one of the windows that are not as wide. So remember, this one's the wider one, this one's not as wide. And these little guys, again, they need to be coming out. And don't worry about getting a little rough with these pieces. Again, we have some panels that are going to go over this. It's going to clean it all up. And we can start by applying glue to one of these tabs. I'm going to start on the left since it's already kind of anchored. I'm going to take this piece, pop it right into place. And as I mentioned before, once you have it lined up, you can take it and flatten it out. Just make sure it's going all the way up there. There we go. Just like that. Okay, there we go. Now, I'm going to bring this guy over. And we're going to apply glue to this tab. It may be handy and helpful to get yourself a little dowel. Grab this one here. And take that, bring it over, and press that tab up against the inside of this window here. And here's what I'm going to do with this dowel. Make sure it's flush up against the surface here. And then take that dowel and use that to kind of apply pressure to that entire tab. There we go. It doesn't take long for it to start getting tacky and really secure itself to the little window element. The area that you really want to focus on, making sure that you give it a little extra attention, is this part here at the peak. Okay. And just hold that in place. There we go. Okay. It's getting there. All right. Next, I'm going to grab one of the wider pieces. So this one, if you put them down, you can tell this one's wider. Okay, so we're going to, you can call it the back if you want. That's fine. Whatever you want to call it. And we are going to start by gluing it to this top section first. I was thinking about connecting all 4 of these all at once at the top here, but then we got a lot of paper kind of flying around and getting in the way, so we're trying to avoid that. Okay. Now this one, I'm not going to be able to really put this down flat just because we have so much going on dimensionally that we're going to have to just do this in the air, and that's okay. Just use your score mark there to guide you. There we go. Make sure everything's nice and flush. And that little secondary roof piece, let's see, I'm going to flip this over and push down from the inside. We can do it flat, actually. Yeah, looks like we can. The secondary roof is actually going to hang over this top part anyway. So if it's not perfect, you don't have to lose any sleep over it. It's still going to look great. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I guess if you want, yeah, I'm not overly concerned about that piece. I would much rather focus on getting this section aligned first. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. I'm going to stick with my gut here. I'm going to apply glue to this section here. Bring this over. I'm focusing on the bottom tip to make sure that that is lined up as accurately as possible, and then just working my way up. I got to give that a little nudge in. There we go. Perfect. Keep that tip nice and straight. And there we go. And then that little guy, we'll glue him down in just a moment. And there we go. Okay, let's flip this tab up and just get a little bit of glue on there. You don't need a lot. And press and hold. Make sure it's nice and straight. And there we go. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to find one of the wider windows. Okay, you can see it's this guy here. And again, these tabs need to be coming out. Let's flare them out. Oh no. I blemished my vellum with some glue. It's okay. I think I could actually scrape it off. Not a big deal. Okay, so this is going to go on like so. Just like that. Okay, and let's see, can we, no, we have to do that in the air. That's okay. All right, go ahead and apply your glue to that tab, and make sure you get it all the way out to the very top and bottom. We want every inch of that secured. Okay, I have my left hand towards the bottom there. I'm using my thumb to push downward while I push upward with my other finger. And it helps when that glue gets a little tackier. It works a little bit easier. What is the best way to do this? Okay, so let's go ahead and apply our glue here. We're going to scratch that. Okay, so go ahead and apply your glue onto this tab. Now remember, this is that one where when we first are getting it anchored, once you get it lined up, you can actually take and flatten it out like so, just to make it easier. And make sure that I'm not encroaching over the score mark. I want to keep it aligned properly. You know, once it is, you can flatten it out and push down like so. And then you can actually take this and put it down on your, well, no you can't. Just press it down like this. It's wonky. It's a wonky little shape. But this does make it easier to get this one into place. This one will get anchored, and then the other one won't move around so much. So it makes it a lot easier to assemble. Okay, there we go. And that one's going to go on like so. And then we just have one more side. And like I said, that's probably the most challenging part of this whole project is the roof. But again, it's not even that bad. Okay, let's get some glue on this tab now. And we're going to feed that in behind the other side of the window. And you can see it's not really moving anywhere because it's already anchored. What I would do is hold it at the bottom and just kind of give that a good press to make sure that it's not moving there, and then work your way up the rest of it. And you know what, this one you can kind of do somewhat flat as well. There we go. And then just a little extra TLC right up at the top, just to make sure that that is nice and secured. There we go. Look at that. Fancy. Okay. All right, next, we got one more section here. And now this one's not going to go flat. We're going to have to do this one in the air because there's no way you're going to spread this thing apart and let it sit flat now, so that's okay. All right. And just get that lined up nice and centered. You can tuck those tabs, those side tabs in. There we go. Make sure you get that good and centered. And once it's aligned, give that glue a chance to get nice and tacky before we do anything else. You have that little access point or entry point up at the top. I'm going to flip this over now and just push down on the rest of that tab from the inside. So in a way you can kind of do this a little bit flat by flipping it around, but it helps to look at it from the top to just ensure that you have the alignment correct. Okay, so now we're going to connect these two sections here. I'm going to apply glue to this guy, this little tab. Hey, little tab. Okay, and again, starting at the bottom, just making sure that those points are lined up. So that all looks good, and then just work your way up, nice and easy. And I think this time what we're going to do is get the other side connected just to make this thing nice and strong all the way around. Okay, there we go. Just work your way all the way up, and then bring it all the way down again, Give that a little extra push. Make sure it's nice and solid. There we go. And I can actually squeeze this like so without destroying everything. So that's nice. All right, let's go over to the other side and let's finish up the overall shape of this. And I went kind of heavy on the glue there, so I'm going to dab that with my finger to thin it out. Just try to not get glue all over your vellum. Okay. Again, going down to the bottom, getting that lined up, and then working my way up. Follow the edge, make sure everything's nice and flush. There we go. Right up to that little corner. Should look nice and crisp. My glue is being a good boy today. Or maybe I'm just in the zone, one of the two. Okay, there we go. And then remember, we have these two little tabs for this last piece. And let me see here. Grab this little guy to fold them back so I can get my glue on them. And just a little dot. Once you kind of push it into place, that glue will spread out nicely. And I'm working on this little corner here. I'm going to push that in place. Just make sure it's all properly lined up, nice and straight up and down. Should have a beautiful little corner there. Okay, and let's go over to the other side here. And press that in place. There we go. Okay, cool. Looking good. All right, so that just leaves this window. Again, I probably should have folded this back earlier, but that's okay. I'll bring this out. Grab our last little window. It's going to go right here, as you can see. And let's apply our glue to this one tab, nice and thin. You don't want to sit here waiting for your glue to dry for hours and hours and hours. Line it up. Make sure that the peak of that is right there. Okay, and then once you have it lined up, should be able to bring it down flat. At least at the bottom. And I've got it at about 45 degrees instead of 90, which is helpful. There we go. Just push that into place. Take your time with this. It's a funky little shape. One little section at a time. That's all it takes. And then don't rush into the next section if this is not completely set, or at least 80% of the way set, because it's just going to end up ripping off. And then you're going to have to start over, so you don't want that. Okay, there we go. All right, so now I'm going to move this out of the way just a little bit, just enough to apply your glue to this last little tab. Okay, then bring that over very gently. Take your time. It's the last section of the roof before we put on the panels. Let's just make sure that it's all done right. Not difficult at all. Just take your time, concentrate. Look at every little push, every little press. Get in the zone. Beautiful. And there it is. Okay, cool. All right, so now what we're going to do, you'll notice you have all of these little tabs here, okay? And these little guys, we have this little piece. Okay, and this is our little skeleton piece. We're going to pop this inside, and this is going to help strengthen and keep the shape of this roof. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in one of these corners here. Okay, and I'm going to take both of these tabs and just get them glued down. Don't need to worry about spreading glue out or doing anything crazy. Just make sure that tab, this little skeleton piece, is as far down and to the left as it'll go while you press down on this tab, as well as this one. And this is really going to help keep its shape before we add the little lip to it. And then this way, when we put the panels on, everything will go on more fluidly. All right, so now what I'm going to do is, I did this side. I'm going to go over to this side now and do these two. I like to kind of balance things out a little bit. Instead of going clockwise or counterclockwise, I think that lends, if you do it that way, you're kind of opening up the possibility of getting to one side and then it not fitting properly. But with this method, okay, so we got these two corners. I need to center myself a little bit. Okay, we've got these two corners put together. Now we're going to head over here to this corner, and then of course, finally, to that corner. So let's get that in place. Throw a little bit of glue on those tabs. Again, I'm taking this little skeleton piece and bringing it over, pushing it as far as it'll go to the bottom right in this case. We want the point there to be as far as it'll go. There we go. Okay, then we'll go back over here and we do the same thing. So pull these two tabs back, grab your little liner, press those two tabs in place, and then we just have the main longer tabs there. And you'll see how sturdy this thing will feel once we're done with this. Okay, bam, feel that. Okay, all right, now let's go over to this long one. And we'll just apply a little bit of glue onto that tab. Just make sure you're pushing this little skeleton piece down as far as it'll go. You can actually put this down on your surface now. There we go, like that. I'm going to go over to this side. Pull that down. And there we go. Told you could do this. You did it. You did a good job. Okay. Pull that, push that down as far as it'll go up against that little skeleton piece. And press down to that tab. And that's okay that it's on, the tabs are on the outside of the skeleton piece. That's what it's there for. It's to make it easy to shape this thing, keep it nice and sturdy. We have another piece that's going to go over it that's going to act like the lip. But we need a nice rectangular, perfectly rectangular surface for it to sit on. There we go. Yay! That looks sharp. I dig it. All right, cool. I'm not going to, we'll get to that little lip here in a second. We don't need to worry about it just yet. Right now, what we want to focus on is putting our little panels in place. Okay. And these are the panels. Okay, so on these little triangular ones, we're going to take these tabs, we're going to flare them out. I had them flared in, but we want to flare them out. And what's going to happen here is these are going to go on, well, this one's going to go here. And this one, you can see here that it does extend a little bit past the, what's it called? The main line there. And that's just to kind of, make it look like a roof. We really want to make it look like a roof. Okay, so these are going to go on first because of these little tabs, and then we're going to follow up with these pieces here. And these are the two big ones. Hold on. Actually, no, they're not. That was right, because again, it kind of extends a little bit beyond the actual structure, just so it, it kind of has a little bit of an overhang. All right, but what we do want to do here is just make sure that when we're putting this down, we're actually getting glue on all of the sections here. And it may actually help to elevate this a little bit. Okay, so I think we should do that. Okay, so now that we have the main structure assembled here, as I mentioned, it may be helpful to elevate this a little bit. I'm actually just going to use some vinyl that I have here, okay, because this will only be helpful for a little bit, but it will be helpful. Okay, so as you can see here, what we're going to start doing is attaching this to the structure. We want to make sure that we get everything lined up properly, and we're going to be using these tabs along with the entire structure. But what we want to do, you don't want to put any glue towards the bottom. That's the little overhang part. But you do want to put a little bit of glue on these little sections here. Hopefully you can see that. I don't know if I was off camera or not. Okay, like that. And just pop that right into place. And I would just start by pressing down on these little areas here. Make sure it's pushed back as far as it'll go, and then press that tab up against the surface as well. A lot going on here, but that's okay, you got this. All right, and I'm looking at the little tabs here, and I'm noticing that I didn't get them completely flush. We want to make sure that we do, so I'm going to grab a scrap piece of paper, and I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on this little section where I just didn't get enough. And I'll push that down. Make sure it's nice and flat. Take your time on this. There we go. Okay, we'll head over to this side now. And again, we have, these are the wider ones, and this is the shorty. I think this is the shorty. Hold on. That's, yeah, and this is going to be the wider one. So you can see here, if you lay these out, one's a little bit shorter but wider, one's taller but not as wide. We need the wider one here for this side. Okay, and again, these tabs, need to pull them out. Start coming out this way. And this is going to go on like so. Just like that. And that tab is going to go up against this surface here and there, like that. So we're going to want to apply glue. Again, keep it away from the bottommost part, because that's not really going to be connected to anything. So we really just need glue here, 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 and then of course on the tabs. Completely on the tabs. Oops. There we go. Okay. Let's bring this over here and pop that right into place. Match up these little sections that segment the little windows. Make sure everything's nice and flush. Okay, you can kind of lift this up. Get your finger on the inside to kind of push up against it if you need to. It's understandable. Just try to keep that roof nice and flat. Okay, just like that. There we go. Okay, now I'm looking at that again, and it is just not sitting flat for me. I'm going to fix that. Because if anything's worth doing, it's worth doing right, as they say. And I am not a fan of, if I know I can fix something, I'm going to do it. Why not? Let's not be lazy about it. There we go. Okay. Everything else looks mostly good. I'm seeing a little bit of the same issue here. We'll fix that. And this is, I just did a podcast recently with a neuropsychologist, Kelly Lambert. This is exactly what, this is the moment right now where you're getting the most benefit from doing this type of work. Just completely engulfed, you know, and that's the whole idea. If you're not enjoying this, then you're approaching it the wrong way. It shouldn't be a task, it should be enjoyable. Okay, so now again, we want the one that's a little bit taller and not as wide, because this is the shorter window, and it's going on the same exact way, just like that. We're doing these first. Okay. And again, just keeping the glue mostly on this part here. You don't need any on the very bottom here, because that is just going to be hanging over our little greenhouse. And don't forget to apply a little bit of glue onto the tab. I am just off center today, sorry. In more ways than one. Okay. All right, pop that right on there. Okay. Match up those lines first. Push it, make sure it's up against that structure as far as it'll go. Get these little lines nice and flush, and then go ahead and push down onto that surface. Make sure it's making good contact. There we go. That one worked out way better. Maybe it's because I added a little extra glue. I don't know. I don't like to overanalyze things too much. I do it anyway, but you know. Okay, so very carefully moving over to the last side here. And I've got one more little piece. And then we've got the final panels for that. There's a second section to the roof, which we're going to install in just a moment. It's really not that hard. It's actually like one piece with a few panels. So it should go rather quick. And I may make a little finial for the top of this. I haven't decided yet. I think it might be nice. Or just buy like a wooden one and paint it white. I really want to jazz this thing up. Make it look nice and inviting. Okay, so this one's going to go right on here. Again, just give that a very gentle little shove up against the back. I guess technically, as long as this tab is getting glued to the main structure, then you know you've got it pushed back as far as it'll go. So you're in good shape. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Good deal. All right. So again, I wanted to keep this propped up so we don't damage the little pieces, little sections that are hanging over. And these, they're kind of the same, but they're mirrored. So you just want to make sure you grab the right one. Okay, like in my case, this would be the right one for this section. And that's going to go on just like this. Okay, so you can see how that's going to go on. There we go. Whoops. There we go. That's beautiful. Okay. So all you need to do, we just need to apply glue to this entire structure, And I would just focus on trying to get half of this in place first, because then the other half will just naturally fall into place. Now, we obviously want to be mindful of the other half, just to make sure that, you know, it's not way off. But, like I said, let's just slide it on there, nice and easy. Careful not to smudge any of that glue onto your vellum. Make sure these edges all line up with the tabs right up at the top as well. This needs to be nudged up a tiny bit. And there we go. Should be nice and straight up at the top. And there we go on the side here. Perfect. Everything should be sitting nice and flat. And there we go. And see, that's what's going to create that little overhang there on the bottom. Now, I did get a little bit of glue beyond where I really wanted to get it, but that's okay. All right. So far, so good. Now let's find the next little section. It's going to go right here. And that's going to go on just like that. And it kind of helps, actually, I think, to unfold that a little bit. So it's a little more flat. There we go. Yeah, this is going to turn out real nice. Okay, let's flip this over and apply our glue. Remember, don't go too far down on that thicker part at the bottom, because it's not really making contact with anything. It's just floating. Okay. And then that way you can actually hold it down there without getting glue all over your fingers as well. Okay, so line that up nicely. Make sure it's at the same height as that previous little panel as well. Press that down. There we go. Beautiful. And you can give that a good squeeze from both sides. There's plenty of room to get your fingers in there. Okay, the panels are looking great. All right, now let's scoot over to this side here. And I can see here that that side, for whatever reason, just did not take. So I'm going to peel this back a little bit and just apply some glue to that little section. And press that down. There we go. Just needed a little extra love. Don't we all? Okay. All right, moving on here. This is, so you can see here, this piece, these little segments are way wider and these are shorter, so that's not going to work here. That's going to go on this one, but this one's going to fit right here perfectly, like so. Okay, same thing. Actually going to flatten this out a little bit and apply my glue. Now, before we put the little lip on the bottom, we need to assemble the top part of the roof and get that installed. It'll be a lot easier to get our hands in there with it not having that little lip on. You probably don't know what the heck I'm talking about, but I'll explain here in just a moment. Okay, let's get this in place. Make sure it's making good contact. You can get your fingers back there. There we go. Perfect. Make sure these little panels here, or these little horizontal dividers for the windows, are matched up with the structure. That looks sharp. Okay, last one. Bring this over here. And let's get our glue going. I need to do this over here. we go. There we go. Okay. And pop that in place. Nice and lined up. Making good contact throughout. And there we go. I let that one go prematurely. Of course, it pulled back a little bit, but it's doing just fine. And there we go. Okay, so we're going to put together the top part of our roof, and I'm going to get these panels in place first. Now, obviously, one side is a little bit wider, so the triangle is going to be a little bit wider as well. And just want to make sure that you put the right one in the right spot. Try to maintain a nice even border all the way around. Okay, there we go. Do the next one. And this little guy, be pretty straightforward to put together. It's all mostly assembled. Just need to connect one little tab. And then just join it to the existing roof. And actually, before we do that, we got to put the little lip on our roof as well. There we go. All right, section here, and what we're going to do is we're going to apply glue to this piece here, this tab, spread that glue out, and then tuck it under and connect it to its neighbor. Pretty simple. You can put that down on your surface, give that a good press, and that's that. Okay, we're going to take the tabs here and fold them in. We're going to grab this piece. This is the piece that we're going to use to anchor this to the main part of the roof. Okay, and let's anchor this to one of the tabs. Go ahead and apply some glue to one of these tabs. Spread that glue out. Okay, and grab this piece and pop it right on there. Make sure it's nice and centered. Right out to the edge. Not a lot of, you can't really get your finger inside, so you're gonna have to work from the outside, which is fine. You can you can squeeze a little bit. Well, maybe you can get your finger in there a bit. And actually now that it's taking, you can fold it out and give that a press. Right there, like so. It's the last three tabs where we're not going to have as much flexibility to get our fingers in there, but that's okay. It'll work. Okay, that looks great. Okay, now let's close it up. Apply our glue to the remaining three tabs. Okay, spread that out nicely. Yeah, I need way more glue here. It's already starting to dry out. There we go. Okay, and close this up. Focus on getting the side opposite of the side that we already have anchored in place first. Make sure it's centered, going all the way out to the edge, like so, and then work the other two sides. There we go. And then this side, I'm probably going to need to paint because my glue is drying quickly today. That's okay. It happens. There we go. Beautiful little gap there. I'm going to clean that up with my scrap using my little painting method. Just slide some glue right in there. And just give that a little press. Hold it. And there we go. Okay. Beautiful. All right, so now to get this anchored in place, I'm going to simply slide these tabs through. Okay, and then on the underside, I'm going to take and flare these tabs over, apply glue here, 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 and here, and then push them. Okay. Okay, so let's put this little lip in place here. This is just to help this thing stay in place. And don't mind that, I got a bunch of glue on that piece of vellum and I need to fix it, so I kind of ripped it off, and what we're going to do here is just apply our glue to this entire base. Kind of have, it's not a lip, it's a base for our lip. Get your glue on this entire structure here, this entire surface. And then we may need to go around and just kind of paint some glue in certain areas just to make sure that this thing is nice and flush all the way around. Just get that right out to the edge on all four sides. And then we've got one more little strip that we're going to put together. To create the actual lip. I'll show you what I mean here in just a moment. Let's focus on this first. I didn't want to put the top of the roof in place yet because it's much easier to keep this thing flat while we work on it. Okay, there we go. There we go. That was pretty straightforward. And if you have any little gaps here or there, just grab yourself a scrap piece of paper, throw a little glue on there. I have a few little areas where I probably could have done a little better, like right there. And just press and hold that in place. There we go. And just work your way around. Now, because the roof kind of hangs over, you're not really going to see it, but we still want to make sure that everything looks nice and crisp. There we go. That wasn't so bad. Okay, so now we're going to grab these four pieces and we're going to connect them all together. We need to alternate from long to short to long to short, and just apply a little bit of glue right on that tab and connect it. So I've got a long one in my left hand, a short one with a tab in my right, and then you can take it and fold it over on itself just to make sure that it's aligned properly. Give that a good squeeze. There we go. Okay, so you've got your long and you've got your short. Now we're going to go with another long. Go ahead and apply your glue to the tab. And pop that right into place. You can fold it over onto itself. I'm kind of making sure that it's sitting right on top of the other one. And that will ensure that I have proper alignment. And now we'll grab the last shorty. Throw a little bit of glue on that tab and join it at the end. So it should, on the other end here, it's going to connect to a long piece. Okay, putting it right on top of itself. Make sure it's nice and aligned. There we go. And then we'll connect it. make it continuous. There we go. Just lay it on top of itself. Should be able to put it down flat now. There we go. Okay. One continuous strip, and what we're going to do now is put it over this series of tabs, and we're going to glue it. Get those tabs in. There we go. Okay, so you can begin. You can pull one of these tabs down and just apply some glue to it. All the way down. Make sure it's centered. It helps to just keep it around all of the tabs. There we go. I'm going to take this tab here that we put glue on. Make sure this little lip that we're installing is nice and flush up against the underside of our roof. I want to make sure it's making contact with this surface here, and then just press that down, just like that. And go over to the opposite side, bring this long tab down, apply some glue, and then bring it up and press it up against this long piece, making sure this is making contact with the underside of the roof. There we go. Okay, now we just need to do the two shorter sides. And bring that up. Press it up against the inside of this little strip that we just created. Here we go. And the last side. Press that up against the inside. And there we go. Okay, so now this will fit perfectly into the actual structure. And there we go. It's got a little bit of wiggle room, which is good. So it's not perfectly tight, but now it won't just fall off. Okay. All right, so we're going to take our roof here, and you can see these little tabs. They're going to go inside, and then we're going to glue them to the underside of the roof. So we're literally just going to take and spread these out this way. Okay, so you can take and just, I'm going to do one of the longer tabs first. Apply some glue, and bring it out. You can actually get your finger in there and press that down. We'll get these tabs in place first, and then I'll show you a little trick to make that roof look even more seamless from the outside. If you probably guessed it, we're going to paint a little bit of glue into the little gaps to really make it look nice and flush. Okay, so just hold that down. Okay, so that just leaves these two little guys here. So go ahead and apply a little bit of glue to each of those, and then just press that up against the inside, nice and easy, just like that. Okay, so that's going to hold it in place nice and secure. And then you can see here from the outside, I have a little bit of separation there. So what we're going to do is grab a scrap piece of paper and apply some glue. Went pretty, it's pretty generous with the glue there. And then just wipe it onto the surface there. Okay, and then you can just hold that side down, and you can actually push up from the inside to help that make contact. And then once this side's down, we'll go over to the other side, do the same thing there, and just kind of work our way around. Just be patient because going to be a little bit of resistance here. It's going to want to pop back out. Okay. And then we've got a few little overlays that we're going to discuss. And that will pretty much wrap up the roof there. Okay, so you see how much more flush that looks. That side is still kind of sticking up, which is expected. So go ahead and another generous amount of glue there and wipe it onto the surface of the white section, the main part of the roof. Okay, and then just push that down, and you can push from the inside as well to help that really get a grip. Just very gently, just give it a nice firm push. I'm pushing right here. And just hold that down. We get those two sides in place. The other two sides should, for the most part, be pretty flush. If not, we can always go in using the same method, just paint a little extra glue right on those sections, and that'll finish that off. All right, so let's begin construction on the actual base of our little greenhouse / conservatory. We have 4 pieces of vellum that are going to go on, and there's 2 longer ones, and you can pretty much tell where that's going to go, and then 2 shorter ones. So we're going to get that in place first. Okay, and then we're going to glue these sections together to make it all one continuous piece, and it's actually pretty straightforward. So I'm going to go ahead and begin, and I'm going to focus your glue just around the perimeters of the little cutouts here. There's going to be some plants and things on the inside, so we're going to kind of just see the silhouettes of. And on these little details here, I wouldn't worry too much about trying to get glue on every little section. It's not going to happen. But try to get a little bit of glue here and there just to anchor that vellum just enough. Okay, pop that down and press down very gently. And give that a few seconds to set. Take a look from the other side. That looks great. We'll leave that alone for just a moment. Okay, we'll do the same thing here. There's a lot of little details in these windows here. So just make sure that when you peel these off of your mat, that they're either on the mat, and if they're not, take a quick peek and just poke them out, just to make sure that we've got them all out, especially in these little tiny little details here. Okay, doing the next one here. So I really tried to conserve paper on this. And typically, we would put multiple layers of panels on some of the, like on the windows themselves, to thicken it up. But after testing it, we said, well, you know, I think it's enough to keep it sturdy. So why put more layers on it? We do have some overlays that are going to go on here that will essentially make it a little more rigid, but we don't need to overdo it. Okay, there we go. Just press that down and hold for just a moment. Okay. And I might actually go in and, like on this one here, grab myself a scrap piece of paper just to make sure that these little guys don't get snagged when we're putting on the next layer, just to flatten it out a little bit, because there's going to be a tab going right here, and I want that to be as flat as possible. So same applies to this one here. You may just make sure that it is nice and anchored in place. And it's never too late to add a little bit of glue here or there, just like that, okay? And we'll do this one as well. There we go. And I'm pushing it outward as I'm pushing down, just to push that glue away from the cutouts. Okay, perfect. So moving on here, I've got one more to go. Just right around that perimeter. You can do dots if you're more comfortable doing dots. I just have a lot of surface area to cover here, so I'm trying to make sure that my glue doesn't dry up on me while I'm trying to get this all in place. There we go. And pop that down very gently. There we go. And you can see that little area there. It needs a little extra love. Right there. And pushing out. There we go. Okay. All right, so vellum in place. Now, looks pretty good. Now what we're going to do is take and connect these. You're going to go small and then large, small, large, small, large. And, you know, if you do have any other areas, like I just flipped this around and I was looking at it and I noticed there's a little bit of a gap there. It's going to make it look a little inconsistent. So just add a little glue, press it down. So as long as everything looks mostly flush on the outside, you're going to be in good shape. Okay, so as I was saying, we're going to go small and then large, small and then large. So go ahead and begin applying glue to the tab. And I'm going to spread that glue out nice and thin, all the way out to the edge. And grab the next piece, make sure it's nice and lined up. It's kind of a big piece, so take your time. Press that down. There we go. Okay, that looks great. All right, so we have a small and a large, so we're going to grab the next small one, and that's going to go right here. So we need to take our glue, apply it to this tab, spread that glue out. Okay. And just line that up, press down. There we go. Okay. Okay, 3 out of 4 in place. Take a look at this one more time. Make sure my vellum looks good, and it does. Flip this around and put some glue on this tab. Spread that out. You don't have to spread the glue out if you don't want. I just like to do it because I know that ultimately it will give me a nice clean seam. Everything will just look professional, impeccable, as I like to say. There we go. Okay, so all 4 sections are now joined. This one's, again, this is easy. The roof is rectangular. It just has some odd peaks and valleys and so on and so forth, but not difficult at all. Okay, so now we need to decide what we're going to do next. There's some layering that we can do here while this is flat, and I think it's a good idea to do that. Okay, so one thing that we can do now is actually we can put the doors in place. Might as well just do it now while it's flat. So we're going to take these two pieces here. It's going to be white on this light blue color. I forget what color it is. Just go ahead and apply a little bit of glue onto this piece. Okay, and it's going to go right on top of this one, like so. Just like that. Press that down, and then we have a little decorative piece here. I've got some gold that's going to go behind it like this. So now this is cardstock going on gold foil, and the two mediums don't really like each other. So we're going to probably need to apply this onto the gold foil and just leave it sit for a minute or two, because it has a tendency to kind of slip around. The foil is not the most porous material. It will ultimately stay in place. It's just a matter of being patient. Okay, there's two of those. So I'm just going to do this. We'll assemble the other door while we're waiting for this to cure. But don't overdo it on the glue on this one here. We don't want it smudging around on our beautiful gold foil. There we go. All right. It's slightly off, but that's actually one of the benefits of using this. If you're off a tad, it's forgiving. It'll give you an opportunity to kind of fix it. We'll put that off to the side while we get this other door assembled here. It's mostly just the trim. So again, we're trying to minimize the amount of paper we're using on these larger projects. So I know that's been a concern. There we go. Okay, and you can see here where the door is going to go. There are a series of little markers to help you with the positioning. Okay, like right around here. It's for the little cutouts. Okay, so you can see how that's going to look as far as the trim. You can foam square these, but I think I'm just going to glue it down flat. I don't know if I want to add too much dimension to this project. Might look kind of strange, I think. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just glue the door down onto the main structure. I'm not going to do all the little sections because we do need this thing to be dimensional to get some of these sections in place, but this one we can do while it's flat. Okay, and again, there's little markers there, and you obviously want to look at it visually too, just to make sure that you have it lined up correctly. There we go. Pop that down. The bottom of this should be flush here at the bottom. If you remove the tab back, you should feel that, and it should feel flush. Okay, so there's our door. There is a little green piece here. I'm sorry, not green, a gold foil piece that's going to go on that little spot for the handle, so we can get that in place. Right there. It's a nice little touch. Make sure you have it properly aligned. There we go. Okay, let's get, we also have, there's these little brick sections, and I'm thinking about maybe doing that later once we actually have this thing shaped, I guess you could say. All right, let's get the other door in place. There's going to be a little bit of a gap between the two doors. They're not going to be butting up against each other. There we go. Tiny little gap. But just make sure that they're all nice and lined up. That's very pretty. And you can see how things are starting to come together here. Okay. All right, let's get the other handle in place, and then we can put the little decorative panel on the bottom of the door. And we can put this thing and make it dimensional. There we go. And hello, new Instagram follower. If you're not following us on Instagram, I'm going to do that. All right, cool. So that looks good so far. Now we're going to take this and bring it around. I'm going to put glue on this last tab. You know what, that vellum also kind of sturdies things. I know it's a thin material, but it does sort of help. And you can actually take, whoa, let me fold this here. You can take this and put it down flat, like so, and grab the other end, and it should just line up perfectly because it is a symmetrical piece. Make sure it's sitting completely flat as you push it down. There we go. Yeah, this part's easy. This is the easy part. Okay, so let's go ahead and open this up now. And we're going to begin. I'm going to put the bottom on this thing. So flip her over and find, there's two pieces like this. One says BL and the other one has nothing on it. The one with nothing on it is going to go on the bottom. And I'm going to start by anchoring it to the front because I know that the layer or the tab that I anchor always looks the best. So I'm going to start there since you're really going to be mostly looking at the front of this. Okay. Spread that glue out to the very edges of the tab. And then grab the piece that does not have the BL on it. Line it up right out to the edge, nice and centered. And hold it down. Just run your fingers along that very edge. Okay, give that a few seconds, and what you can do is take it, let it drop, and press down on the rest of the tab so that the whole thing is making good contact throughout. Okay, give that a few seconds to cure. Take a look at that seam again. And like I said, it's always the best one, usually anyway. Mostly seamless. After it cures, if I see a few little gaps or something, I can always go back in and clean it up. Now what we're going to do is take the lid, we'll call it the lid, even though it's the bottom. Just move it out of the way, and we're going to apply glue to the remaining 3 tabs. Spread that glue out, and we're going to close this up. Now, it's a lot of surface area. Chances are we're going to have to go in and kind of clean it up a little bit. Rarely do I get everything on so much surface to sit correctly my first time. The one thing I can suggest is when you're trying to glue all this surface area all at once, using more glue actually is helpful. Okay, we're going to close this up. Focus on getting it aligned with this side here, the side opposite of the side that's already hinged or secured, glued down, I should say. And just press down on all the sides. And I noticed here is actually need to pop this out a little bit. Just make sure that it's straight. It is paper, kind of breathes a little bit. Okay, so now what we can do, take a look at that, looks good. We're going to take and apply some glue to the tabs here on the inside, like so. And then take this other piece that has the BL on it and just slide it right in there. And that's our bottom liner, BL. I'm just going to clean it up, make it look nice. And also add a little bit of strength to it. Okay. Okay. So what we're going to do next is we're going to put our little plants inside. Okay, let me grab all of mine. And the cool thing is with this, we don't really need to do any inking because it's just a splash of color and some silhouettes. So once we actually get, once we put our light inside, once we put the light inside, it's going to kind of shine through and create the illusion that, well, we have some beautiful plants inside. Okay, so obviously there's two long ones, two short ones, and we're just going to glue them on top of each other. Okay, so you can see here, these are identical. I don't know if you can see that. There you go. So we're going to do on these small ones here, the green layer is going to be on top, like so. Okay. And we want, actually, we can do it this way, like that. Okay, so you can see this little plant here that actually kind of looks like one of those plants that a lot of people indulged in the 70s. So you want that one on the left, and then this one right next to it. So you're going to glue this down like so, and we're just going to focus on applying glue on this large area here. Just make sure you get enough on there for the two layers to stick. Okay, and it looks like I have this side here is smooth, it's not textured. So that's how it should look. Okay, so from this side, it's going to look like that. Okay. And then on the other side, we're going to change it up a little bit so it's not an exact mirror. So we're going to do it this way. Okay. So just take and apply some glue to this bottom part and grab this piece. Actually, it is the same, except it's just mirrored, which is fine. Okay. So those are the smaller sections, and then for the larger sections, I'm going to grab, okay, it's going to be like this, and we're going to take our, you can see how that's laid out, okay, just like that. Let's put some glue on this strip here, just on the bottom. And it's actually kind of cool if there's a little bit of separation between these, because then it just looks more realistic once we actually get that glued in place. And this doesn't even need to be perfect either. Just need to make sure that you have it lined up on top of itself so that it fits inside. Okay, all right, and same thing here. I'm just taking a look at my prototype, making sure that I'm doing this correctly. Okay, and we're going to do it like this. It doesn't really matter, but the idea is just to make sure that, you know, if you do it this way, then they're kind of fighting each other. You don't want that. It was designed in a way where one layer kind of peeks through the other. Okay, so just make sure that you're getting as much of the plants showing through as you kind of look at it from left to right. It's a cool little touch. Okay, just line that up nice and flush on the bottom. And there we go. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to take these, and before we put them in, it might be a good idea to grab yourself a dowel and just kind of create a little separation. So take these and just kind of train them a little bit. not too much. We want them to be relatively close to the windows so that you can actually see the colors, but it would be nice to give them a little bit of separation, okay? So with this one, let's see here. Yeah, with this one, the long strip here, the dark green is going to be in the foreground. Okay, so it's going to go like this. Okay, so you can kind of see how that looks. That's going to look cool. Okay, so let's do this. We're going to, whatever side we're gluing this to, we'll just put that down on our surface so we can just slide it in and just push it into place. And we don't need to get too crazy with glue here either. Just a little bit, just to make it stick. Okay, so take that, pop it in, make sure it's flush with the bottom all the way, and nice and centered, obviously. And just push that into place. And this is also going to make this a lot more sturdy by adding 2 more layers of paper towards the base. Okay, so here, check that out. See how cool that looks? Okay, so let's go over here and put this other side down. Okay, you want the dark green out in front. Apply a little bit of glue to the base, this little strip. Pop it in, make sure it's flush with the bottom as far as it'll go, nice and centered, and press it down into place. There we go. Okay. Okay, and then on these smaller sides, we're going to do, well, you don't have to do it this way, but I'm going to put the light green facing out. Just throw a little bit of glue on that bottom, take it, pop it in, all the way to the bottom, flush. Press down. Make sure it's centered. There's a little wiggle room in there for this piece. Okay, let's take a look. That looks so cool. Okay, one more side here. Yeah, it's feeling nice and sturdy. I dig it. Okay. Pop that in, press down. There we go. All right. That's cool. So here, shine the light in there. We'll wait for the final reveal. Okay, in the meantime, let's go ahead and let's take a look and see what else we can do here. Well, can take and put the little lip on top before we start putting all the little details in place. So it's this little piece here, okay? And what we're gonna do is begin by anchoring it. I'm gonna anchor it to the front, because again, the section that I anchor typically ends up looking the best. The roof's gonna be on top of this, so if it's kind of messy and you don't do such a great job on it, don't worry about it. But we like to clean things up and make things look as professional as possible, especially if you're gonna be selling these items. Okay, so pop that right on there, and then you've got plenty of room to get your fingers in there. Press down on the rest of that tab, like you're making a little pie crust. There we go. Okay, and then you can take this thing, flip it out, push down on the rest of that tab, make sure it's making good contact. There we go. All right. And now we're going to close this up. Go ahead and apply your glue to the remaining 3 tabs. And I'm going a little bit heavier on the glue here because I've got a lot of surface area to work with, and I don't want that glue prematurely drying out on me. I love the little plants inside. It's so cool looking. There we go. All right, go ahead and close this up and focus on this side first. Just get it nice and centered because it sort of will automatically figure itself out on the sides. You might have to nudge the wall in a little bit on the other sides here, on the two sides, the shorter sides, but for the most part, it should just work nicely. And worst case scenario, if we have to, we can always go in and paint a little bit of glue in these little areas that need a little extra love. Like that might be a little gap there, but for the most part, it looks great. Okay, all right, so that is in place. There we go. Awesome, nice and sturdy without having too many layers, so that's good. All right. Let me clean up this little section here, especially in the front, because you know we're going to be staring at the front of this thing the most. But I'll always go around and double check my work and make sure everything looks as seamless as possible. Okay. All right, so now we're going to start adding trim and all kinds of good stuff. We still have these little panels that we need to put on the front door. That's going to go right there. We gave the foil plenty of time to dry on the cardstock. And we just want to make sure we get that nice and centered right on there. Press and hold that down for just a moment. Just like that. Grab our other one. And again, this is the back of the foil is almost like a plastic. There's like no texture at all. So again, you want to be patient. Make sure that you give it ample time to set. See that? Literally just slid. I have to stick my hand in there and push it from the back a little bit. There we go. Okay, there we go. That looks nice. I think that looks even. Okay, cool. Okay, next, we need to start putting the little brick portion down first before we put our vertical poles down. Okay, so that's these pieces here. And you'll notice that two of them have tabs, and those are going to go on the sides, and those actually need to go on first. Ooh, look at that. Look at that. Look at that gap. Let's clean that up. Scrap piece of paper with a little bit of glue, and just paint it right in there and close it up. Doesn't take more than just a few seconds. Okay, back to this. So the two on the sides that have the little score marks, we need to get those in place first. Okay, because these little tabs are actually going to help us make sure that if we're off by a little bit, that we don't have any gaps. And I need to clean this up again here. I have a few little gaps here that I'm just not a big fan of. Clean that up. And right there. Just want it to be nice and pretty. Okay. All right, so go ahead and apply glue. You can put glue on the tabs too. That's fine. I actually ran this through an embossing machine to give it a nice brick texture. So this is kind of like a little foundation for our greenhouse. Okay, so those little score marks and where the tabs are should line up perfectly with the side and go over to the sides nicely. There we go. Looks great. Now we can take and pull these back. I don't think I got enough glue on these little tabs. Let's just add a little extra, push that down up against this surface. There we go. I'm going to flip this over. Yeah, this side needs a little extra love too. So let's do that. Maybe a little too much glue on there. Push that down and hold it. I got to push from the inside. There we go. Wonderful. All right, let's go over to the other short side. We do the same thing here, just like that. Hopefully you guys can see that okay. And based on the fact that I had to go in and add glue to those little tabs after the fact, I'm just not even going to put glue on them initially. Just get this part glued down first and then worry about that after I get this in place. Okay, that looks nice. Okay, let's go over here and we'll add a little bit of glue to this little fella. Hold that down. There we go. And then the other side. And hold that down. There we go. This one came off. I don't know why, mister. What are you doing? Okay. You just have to be patient. That is the key. There we go. Okay, so now on the front here, we have two of these little guys. Okay, and they're just going to continue on from the edge, and they should meet up pretty much with the side of the door, like so. So let's get that in place. Just make sure it's flush with the bottom, flush with the sides, and it should ultimately, like I said, end up butting up against the side of the door as well. Just push that in place. And then we have a little trim piece that's going to go on top. I'm going to do basically the same thing we just did, but with a thinner piece. I think that in architecture or home design or structural design, that's used to just kind of make sure that water runs away from the structure. Okay, make sure it's flush on the bottom. There we go. Beautiful. Cool. Yeah, that really adds a nice touch to the bottom there. Okay, so now I have one more piece on the back. That's this long piece here. So go ahead and apply your glue to this little fella. I like calling my paper little fellas. I don't know why. I think it's just the first time I did that. This little fella. Okay, line that up. Nice and flush with the bottom. Press that down into place. You can actually take this and put that down on your surface once you have it aligned and really give it a good push from the inside. Careful not to snag any of the plants in there. Looks nice. I've got some gappage there. I'm gonna clean that up. I don't like that. There we go. It happens. It's gonna happen. Okay, there we go. All right, so take a look. Yeah, that's coming out really nice, actually. All right, so find these little pieces. And this one got kind of warped a little bit. It's okay. Okay, so we'll notice here that we have one long one without any tabs. And then we have two shorter ones with tabs. Here's the other one. And then we have two real small ones with no tabs. Those are going to go on the front. But just like we did with this, with the main part, this little shorty here with the tabs is going to go on first. And it's going to go right on top of this layer. You want that flush right at the top, like so. Okay. It's a thin little strip, but it's doable. Just do your best. There we go. Let's get that glue flowing. Don't worry about the tabs. We'll glue those down after. And just be careful here. This thing is, it's kind of silly. Okay, and just make sure it is flush with the very top. It's going to go right on top of that brick layer. There we go. Make sure it's nice and even. There we go. It's all in the details. That looks beautiful. Okay, so now we can actually take and glue down the little tabs here. I'm going to clean off this nozzle. It's getting kind of gross. One little dot right there. Glue that down. Go over to the other side and get that tab in place. Again, this is just to ensure that there's no gaps when we cross over onto the adjacent side. So now that we have this in place, we can actually take this little strip and just glue this one down just to get it out of the way. Just do little dots or thin little lines. There we go. I feel like I'm doing surgery with this little piece. There we go. Beautiful. Perfect. There you go. Yeah, we'll take it. Okay. Let's go over to this side now. Grab this other medium-sized piece that has little tabs on it, and let's get this one glued into place. Okay, very carefully, because like I said, it's kind of springy. Line that up. I'm doing like an air squat right now. There we go. Press that down. Beautiful. Okay, hold it in place. Give it a few seconds. There we go. Then we can head over here. Oh, that one actually, I guess I got a little bit of glue on that tab. There we go. Press that down. Go to the other side. Little dot of glue there. Press that down into place. There we go. Just be patient. Okay, cool. All right, so we have this small strip for the front, then we have the long strip that's going to go on the back, and then a few more little overlays to put on here just to wrap it up as far as the main structure goes. There we go. Okay, I'm going to push from the inside a little bit. Cool. That looks nice. Very nice, actually. All right, so to the back here. If it's easier for you, if you want, what you can do is maybe just put glue on half of this. Okay, and just get like half of it in place. I'm going to stand up. This is kind of a big piece. And just glue half of it down, because you can always take and peel it back, apply more glue, and get the other half of it in place like this. So I'm just peeling it back now. Applying glue to the rest of it. And since it's mostly anchored already, it should be pretty easy to get the rest of it lined up. There we go. That's how it's done, folks. Okay, all right, so that's ready to go. All right, the next thing that we're going to put in place here are these little sections. And you can see, again, that we have two that have tabs, and 2 without tabs, okay? So these little guys are gonna go on the side. This is a little trim piece for the top. And that's gonna go right there like so. It's gonna be flush with the top, okay? So of course there's a lot of little detailed cutouts on this. I wouldn't worry about trying to get glue in between. Just focus that glue along the edges. As long as you got glue on the edges, it will stay. Okay, and again, you want this flush with the top, like so. And just press that into place. There we go. And just hold that momentarily while it sets. Then we're gonna have some vertical posts. I've actually thought about maybe using some foam squares to create some dimension with them, but I don't know if it's necessary. I think it'll still look good flat. And it's possible that if we try to use foam squares, it might be able to see them, so I don't know if I want to do that. We were just thinking about the bungalow that we did for Halloween, and I was like, well, do we make dimensional posts? Do people want to do that? I don't know. I don't think you want to. I don't think you want to. Okay, so that part is in place. Let's go over to the other side, grab the other piece that has the tabs on it, and do the same thing. Apply your glue there, run it along the edge, just to the side of the little cutouts. On both sides. Go easy with the glue. Okay, and then line that up. Get it nice and centered. Flush with the top. That little tab should fold over onto the adjacent side. And press that down. Just like that. Okay, now let's go over to these little tabs here and get these glued down so that they sit in place. There we go, and one more, and then we just have 2 long tabs to finish off the front and the back, or 2 long strips, I should say. Yeah, not much inking on this. I didn't, like, what do you do with white? I didn't want to distress it because I wanted this thing to look nice and clean and crisp. So, yeah, really not much you can do with the white. I mean, there is, I'm sure there is, and I'm sure somebody will, but in my mind, I wanted to keep it relatively simple. I'm gonna put this down on my surface because it's a little flimsy. I'll run my glue down the edge on both sides. A little bit in these little gaps here. Okay, let's get this on the front. I'm going to stand up and do this. And again, flush with the top, flush with the sides. Should fit perfectly onto the surface. There we go. Beautiful. And if you need to, you can kind of use a finger on the inside to kind of help you push out, help it make good contact. There we go. Okay, starting to come together here. We'll go on the back and finish it up with this last little strip. All right, now at this point, we're going to put together some of the vertical posts, okay? There's going to be 4 of them that look like this. These are going to be on the corners. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to apply glue to the white layer and then pop that right on top of the, in my case, the light blue. And I'm thinking that I'm actually going to, just to add a little bit of dimension to my little greenhouse here, I might take some foam squares and zot these. And actually, well, they're kind of designed to do that. But for the single ones on the front and on the sides, I'm going to glue those down flat. Just make sure that you get glue on this entire thing so that there's no separation between the two layers. We want everything to look nice and flush. Okay, so we'll do the 4 corners first, and then there's a series of individual ones that we're going to need to glue together as well. But it's very simple paper piecing stuff. Again, because I'm keeping it sort of classic looking. No inking, no embossing, just simple. But of course, I know you guys are going to have a field day with these and make them up in all sorts of ways. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Okay, get that lined up as accurately as you can. And while the glue is curing, try to keep these at a 90-degree angle so that they're like this. Just like that. Okay, make sure everything's nice and flush. I've got one more to go here. I'm going to grab my foam squares. I'm going to get these on so you can start to really see this thing taking shape. Okay, one more to go here. There we go. Just run your finger along the entire piece here. There we go. Okay, so these are looking sharp. Now you'll notice here with these cutouts, there's a section on the bottom that doesn't have any. Okay, that's going to be at the bottom, and this is going to be at the top. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's see if these foam squares are, I don't think they're too big. I'm going to keep them in as far as I can, like that. Okay, and then I'll do another one here. I just don't want them to, you're not really going to be able to see them at this angle, so it doesn't really matter, but let's see. Yep, that's good. I think 2, one on top, one on the bottom will do. This thing is thick enough to where I don't see it bending or bowing or any of that stuff. Let's peel off the backing and get our first little corner piece in place. Let's grab this little guy. We want to make sure that this is flush on the bottom. So just kind of use your finger as a guide and just make sure it is making good contact. Okay, there's our first little post. Nice and flush on the bottom so it sits flat. Okay, let's move on over to the next one here. You get the idea. We're going to repeat this process 4 times for all 4 corners. And you know what, I'm going to put these next to each other. I don't think it's a big deal where they really go. Just as long as you're able to achieve that dimensional look. That's all we're after here. Okay, don't forget to keep this little cutout part on top. And it might help to just kind of, I'm using my surface as a guide here as well. There we go. Push that right on there. Press it into place. There we go. Okay, yeah, and once we have the roof on, it's gonna look really nice. Okay, so then we have these single poles here. I'm gonna glue these down flat. Okay, they're gonna go right there, like so. Just thinking about possibly foam squaring these as well, but I think you're gonna see the foam squares if you do that, so I don't want that. Get that nice and centered so that there's an even border around the window and the door. Okay, just pop that right into place. Make sure it's flush on the bottom. like so. There we go. That looks nice. I guess I didn't really show you how to put that piece together, but we'll go over that in a second. I just had it prefabricated. Okay, I've got one more here. Basically, it's these two that are going to go on top of each other like that. So I'm just going to put some glue on the back of this, pop that on there, and then this one's going to go right on here like that. Again, try to maintain an even border for the windows and the door, flush on top and bottom. Okay, let's get the glue on here. Get that nice and centered. There we go. Okay, so all that's left to do, again, you have two more corner pieces, one that's going to go there and one that's going to go here on this corner, right? And then just going to repeat. There's one more single post here, two single posts here, and one more here. So 1, 2, 3, 4 singles and 2 corners. Just get those in place and you can move on to the finishing touches. All right, cool. So a couple things here. If you decide that you want to do some embossing to these windows here, or if you want to change the color, we've included a set of these in the extras folder. You can cut these out separately. Okay, there's one for each of the main windows on the roof. Not required. In my case, I'm keeping it all white, but you know, some people may opt to do it a different color. And the finishing little touch here is we've taken this little decorative element and we've cut it out of gold just to add a little accent to the main window so it's not so white, I guess. Just needed a little color. Okay, so that looks nice and sharp. We'll go over to the other 3 sides and just get those in place. And then that is it for your roof. It's going to go right on top of the actual house, or the main structure, I should say. So you want to get these in place, and then we have a little urn with a boxwood that's going to go on the front. I'll show you how that goes together in a second. We have 2, just to kind of have that beautiful symmetry on the front of our conservatory. Just getting these little guys in place. So just get that wrapped up, and then I'll show you the little planter, and then we obviously have a base as well if you want to just make sure that it's sitting on something nice and solid. We've given you a platform to put it on that includes now keep in mind that this little decorative element, there's one that's slightly larger and one that's slightly smaller because this element is a little bit bigger on the front windows, front and back, than it is on the side. So make sure you don't flip-flop those, okay? All right, so for the urn, we're going to take this shadow piece and we're going to glue down this white layer. Now, I pretty much left this one alone too. You could distress this a little bit, and I may follow up with just a little bit of brown, because you know these things sit out in the sun, they get rained on, and sometimes they look a little distressed just from the elements, and you're welcome to go in and kind of beat them up a little bit if you want. Okay, then we have this little piece. The longer, wider part is going to go downward, and you can kind of see the outline of this shape on that white piece. Just make sure you get it aligned correctly. Pardon my head if it's in the way. There we go. And then this little piece, there's going to be a little bit of a gap between this layer and the layer we just put down, and that is just going to hug the very base of our planter. Okay, just like that. Then we have this green layer of our boxwood that's going to go down first, like so. And let's glue that down. And then we have a secondary layer that is just going to go on like this, just to make it two-toned. You want to center that. You could also omit it if you want to just go with one color, but I think that looks nice. And then you can take and foam square these to, well, one to the left, one to the right of the front door, just to finish it off. Oops. There we go. Okay, let's take a look at our house here. I have some candles in here already, so I don't want to jostle this thing around too much. Actually, let me take them out. I put these, I wanted a warm color inside this thing. My electronic tea lights, they're kind of blue, meaning their color temperature isn't very warm, so I didn't like that. But these are going to go right here. You can glue them down, You can glue them down flat. You can glue them down flat, or you can kind of zot them a little bit. I'm going to opt for some zots. I think it'll look nice. And I'll just put one in the center at the top, one on the bottom. That little guy needs to come off. I was just using that as kind of a test to see what it looked like. That's going to go there. And then we'll do one here. Just keep it in the middle so that it's not so obvious from the side if someone happens to take a glance at it from the side. Okay, and you obviously want this flush on the bottom. And you can use that little vertical pole as your guide for placement. There we go. Just like that. Okay. All right, so that's that. And now we just need to construct the optional base, which is made up of these two pieces as well as this one. And in your download, you'll have a piece like this. It's a weird color, and that's because, well, it's just a template, okay? And we're going to use that template to help us cut our foam. So I typically like to put it in the corner so that one edge, in this case 2 edges, I'm going to put it over here. It was kind of thin over there. So 2 edges are already cut. You know what I mean? It kind of saves you the trouble of having to go through and cut more than you really need to. I'm going to check this blade and make sure it's working okay. For some reason it's not cutting perfectly. But anyway, you get the idea. You can draw with a pen to create the little boundary for this if you want, or you can just cut it freehand. Either way works. But this is going to be the size of the foam board that you need. And that razor blade got beat up somehow. So I'm just going to trim this So you get the idea. I need to replace the blade on that one. It worked for the most part. And it doesn't need to be perfect as long as you're within the confines of that little template. This will fit inside of the actual base without a problem. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take this, and we have these two pieces here that we need to fold. Okay. There we go. Just couldn't quite fit this whole thing on one sheet of paper. Okay, which is why you have these stray little fellas. All right, and let's fold here. I'm gonna fold it this way and then fold it back. Just makes it a little easier. You got some little tabs here. We're gonna need those in just a moment. Go ahead and fold that over, and fold that over. Bring those tabs in, and what we need to do is take, and it doesn't matter which side you use, they're both the tabs are pretty much the same size, I think. Yep, doesn't matter. So what we're going to do is apply glue to one of the tabs here, and we just need to add the two remaining tabs for this little structure here, because obviously it only has two on the one side. Okay, I'm going to do it this way just so I can see it better and get it aligned more accurately. There we go. Press that down. Give that a few seconds. You can actually take it then and fold it over onto itself, pushing down on that tab still. Okay. Don't let up on this one. Looks pretty good. A little bit of a gap there, but I'll clean that up with my little painting method. Okay, and now I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. So pick a tab, doesn't matter which one. I'm gonna go a little bit heavier on the glue here. Spread that out to the very edge. Okay. And I'll do it the same way. Get that centered right up to that score mark. Make sure it is aligned in the center. There we go. Just press and hold that. And just continue to hold. Using quite a bit of real estate here on the size of the tab. So it is kind of important to make sure that everything sits nice and flush. There we go. Okay. All right, next, I'm going to take these little triangular tabs. I need to connect them right here. Okay, and you're going to want to be patient with this. It is a pretty small tab. It's doing a lot of heavy lifting. So connect it and just hold it. Be very patient with it. And don't let up, because it's holding the weight of this entire tab. And you can actually fold it over this way a little bit so that there's less resistance. And just hold that in place. Don't mess with it too much. It will very easily come apart. There's not that much surface area holding it in place. Okay, I'm going to go over to the other side here and apply some glue. Same thing, pop it in and press and hold and just leave it sit for a little bit. Don't rush. Okay. Very carefully here. Moving on to this tab. Little dot of glue. Bring it in behind the neighboring wall. Press and hold. And that's actually kind of helping that one a little bit by bringing it in. There we go. And last but not least, very carefully here. Got one more tiny tab. Bring it in and press and hold. And there we go. Okay, so now that we have the structure in place, you can see that this is going to fit in there with a little bit of wiggle room. Just move the tabs out of the way. And the cool thing is you can bring these down and you have a platform to help you put the lid on it, so to speak. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start by anchoring this to one of the tabs first. It's okay if you go a little bit heavier on the glue here. Spread that out to the very edge. This is the bottom, and we can actually have this on the bottom, meaning that the other side can be the visible side. So if you don't do a good job with this part, no one's really going to see it anyway. Okay, press that down. Again, you have some foam in there so that you can really press down on it, and that helps ensure a nice clean seam. There we go. Looking good. Now we'll pull this away and get ready to really kind of lay it on here with the glue. We'll apply glue to the remaining 3 tabs. Don't be afraid to go a little heavier here. We've got a lot of space to cover. Okay, and I'm going to spread that out to the very edge. Kind of making a mess a little bit on my surface, but it's okay. I'm on the last leg here. There we go. And then go ahead and bring it down. Focus on getting it aligned with this side here. You know, especially because if you're going to put heavier candles in here like I am, you want a nice solid base for this. All right, and then just go ahead and run your finger along the perimeter, get that nice clean seam. You can always go in and do a little bit of painting on the glue if things are not all matching up. But for the most part, because of that foam being in there, this usually ends up working quite well. It's a solid little platform. Okay, so check your work. If you have any little seams here, grab yourself a scrap, throw a little bit of glue in between the seams, and press and hold it down for a few extra seconds. Make sure everything looks nice and crisp, and then you can glue this down onto the structure. I'm just going to leave it like that for now. Let me put my candles in here. So I really like these warmer candles, especially with just the clear vellum. So I really like these warm candles, and they have this like little glow effect, which looks really cool, especially when you dim the lights a little bit. But there is our beautiful Conservatory, and I'm going to put it on a little round plate and actually either fill it with some moss to add a pop of color around it, or maybe even some potpourri. I'm not sure yet. I have both at my disposal, so we'll see what happens. But anyway, I think it's a beautiful project. I'm looking forward to decorating for spring, and this is going to be the centerpiece in my dining room, and can't wait to see your version. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please visit us on our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. While you're there, hit the little bell so you get notifications anytime we release a new project, whether it be paid or free. And if you make this or anything from our garden getaway bundle, I'd love to see it, and so would the rest of our community. So head over to your Facebook and do a search for Dreaming Tree Official. That's where I hang out, that's where Mike hangs out, that's where Diana hangs out, and 45,000 of our closest crafty friends. So anyway, hope you had a blast, and as always, I look forward to crafting with you again.
Hey, thanks for crafting along with me. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, check out some of our other videos and please consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to visit our site and check out our free SVG section where you'll find over 140 free SVG files complete with assembly tutorials. I'll see you in the craft room.